right, so good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in across the continent and beyond. My name is Jesse. I'm here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, and I know a lot of you have joined us before, but if you are new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Now, this is our Space Month. We've been doing an incredible amount of programs with NASA engineers, science communicators, a couple astronauts. We want to bring you something different today. So every single year, I have the great pleasure of welcoming back the Eclipse guy. David Makepeace travels the world searching out some of the one of the most amazing natural phenomena that happens on our planet beyond however you want to think of eclipses. It's sort of both at the same time. I'm so thrilled to have him here for you today. We've got 500 plus kids joining us across the continent, coast to coast. And if you have never seen an eclipse, maybe you've never even heard of an eclipse, today you're going to learn a lot of really cool stuff and see some truly amazing footage of what is one of the most special things that you can experience on this planet. So without further ado, welcome in, Eclipse guy, and nice to have you back, man.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks so much, Jesse. Thanks so much. And I'd just like to welcome, as Jesse was saying, the hundreds of students that we have from across the continent joining in on this very special class about solar eclipses, which is my favorite topic of all time. And we also happen to be living at a time where there's lots of eclipses going on. So this is very timely to be able to discuss this. I think we're all hearing about eclipses right now. Over the last couple of years, there's been several. There was one just a couple of days ago, and there's even eclipses upcoming. So this is a perfect time to be talking about my favorite topic, total solar eclipses. Now, I've been chasing eclipses for most of my life, and I have no plans at all to stop chasing eclipses. And why is that? Why would I be doing this? It's because the experience of seeing a total solar eclipse in the sky is the most fantastic thing you can possibly see from Earth. It is the most spectacular natural event that you can possibly witness from Earth. And that is why I keep going over and over and over again. So that is the first thing that I want you to understand about eclipses before we even get into any of the details, is that it's the experience of being there and seeing it with your own eyes that is the most fantastic thing. We can describe the eclipse and the moon coming in front of the sun. We can describe it all with science, and we can understand it with science. But in all the eclipses that I've been to and all the different places in the world, I've never looked up into the sky and seen science. What I see is the natural phenomenon, and I feel the natural feelings that you feel when you see that something so beautiful and so amazing. They call that a peak experience. So for me, seeing an eclipse or seeing all the eclipses is a peak experience. And what that means, it's the height of experiences where all the best feelings that you can have as a person, the wonder and the awe and the excitement of just being here on the planet, all seem to come together when you see an eclipse. So that's the first thing that I want you to know, is that seeing an eclipse is the best experience that you can have. The second thing that we need to know about eclipses is, and this is one of the things that makes them, also very exciting, is that they're a little bit dangerous to watch. We need to be very careful when we look up at the sun. So if you're going to see eclipses, you have to get yourself a pair of these things, right? These are eclipse shades, or, certified solar eclipse viewers. And you need to put these on to protect your eyes, because you must never look at the sun with your naked eye, because you could seriously damage your eyes if you look at the sun. And during an eclipse, when the moon starts to move in front of the sun, it gives you a reason to want to look up there. And it could be for quite a large amount of time. So these things, absolutely essential if you want to see an eclipse safely. And then the secret is, during a total eclipse of the sun, when the total phase comes and the moon blocks out the sun completely, you can take these off. It's only when some of the sun is visible that you need to protect your eyes with these. Or even this. This is a piece of welder's glass. I've been using this one for 30 or more than 30 years to protect my eyes. But when totality comes, that phase of the eclipse where the sun is completely gone, you can remove all of your eye protection and you can experience totality with your naked eye. So those are the first two things that I want you to understand. It's a tremendous experience, and you have to watch them safely by protecting your eyes. Now, eclipses come in all different shapes and colors. You've got the moon. It can be eclipsed. That's called a lunar eclipse, and the moon can go red at night. That's a different type of eclipse. We'll talk about those on another day. I love talking about solar eclipses, and there's a couple of different types of solar eclipses. There's a partial solar eclipse where the moon comes by and it just eclipses a little bit of the sun, and then it keeps moving. Then there's the total eclipse, which is what mostly we're going to be talking about today, where the moon comes and blocks out the sun completely. But there's also another solar eclipse called a ring eclipse, or what scientists call an annular eclipse. And there was one just a couple of days ago, and I happened to be in New Mexico for that. And I want to show you some video. I've barely even finished putting this together, but this is an annular eclipse. Take a look at this. So here comes the moon, blocking out the sun. It's moving along. So this is a time lapse. So this normally takes a little bit of time. But you can notice now as the moon starts to move along that the moon is going to be just a little bit too small to cover the sun. So take a look at what it does when they all line up together. When the moon, the sun, and the earth line up, there you go. You get a ring. So let me just pause this video so you can see that. There's the moon sitting on top of the sun in the sky. But on this day, the moon was a little bit too far away to create a total eclipse. So the moon isn't covering the sun completely. You leave this ring of sun all the way around the outside of the moon during this type of eclipse. And this is just a couple of days ago. Like I said, I was in New Mexico to get this footage. And watch as the moon now slowly moves off. And the moon breaks the edge of the sun and then just keeps moving. And then it moves off. So that is some very recent footage of an annular eclipse that I just wanted to show you. I'm going to finish that up again later, but that's the most recent eclipse that I've been to. And I just wanted to show that to you. So let's talk about what we're going to be discussing during this talk. So we're going to go through what is a total solar eclipse. We're going to look at some maps and some animations so we can just understand basically what a solar eclipse is. Then we're going to talk about the shadow of the moon, because it's the moon coming in and casting its shadow down onto the earth that creates this incredible phenomenon that allows us to see a total eclipse. So the shadow of the moon is really important. Then we're going to look at some solar eclipse fun facts and learn a little bit more about the incredible facts and the science behind eclipses. And then we're going to find out, when is the next eclipse? When could we possibly see an eclipse for ourselves? So let's get into the good parts of what a solar eclipse actually is and try to understand what's happening during a total eclipse. So this is an animation from NASA and their scientific visualization studio. Here comes the moon, slowly covering up the sun. And then at a certain point, you get this alignment between you on the earth and then the moon and then the sun. So there's this alignment between the three bodies, earth, moon, and sun. And you're standing on the earth, of course, and you get to look up into that dark moon, the dark side of the moon, and it's covering the sun completely. This is called totality, the phase of the total eclipse where the sun is completely gone. And all of this white, wispy tendrils and these streamers and these brush shapes that are on the outside, that's the sun's atmosphere, also called the corona or crown. This is the crown of the sun. And this is there every single day, but you can't see it because the sun is so bright. Only when the moon moves in front of the sun can you see the corona. And then the moon hangs out here for 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. It's different at every eclipse. And then the moon just keeps moving. And then the sun reappears and all the light comes back. And then the eclipse is over. So let me just back that up for you. Here comes the moon in its orbit. It does this all the time, except on this day, it moves right in front of the sun. And now you have a total eclipse. The sun is gone. You get all this tremendous phenomenon in the sky. You see the corona or the atmosphere of the sun, and then the moon just keeps moving, and then the eclipse is over. So that gives you just the basic celestial mechanics, what's actually happening in the sky to create a total eclipse. So let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail, because this alignment between the sun and the moon and the earth, as I said, this is what is responsible for creating the conditions for a total eclipse of the sun. And it's the moon's shadow dropping down onto the surface of the earth that gives us the opportunity to go stand somewhere where we can stand in the shadow of the moon. Once you're standing in the shadow of the moon, you can look up that long cone of shadow and observe what we just saw, which is the moon blocking out the sun. So let me just pause this animation here. This is the path of the eclipse that we saw in America in 2017. This long red line here is the path of the total eclipse over time. At any one moment, here's the shadow of the moon on Earth inside that little dot, that little black dot. That's where you have to stand to see the sun disappear. If you stand anywhere else, down here to the south or up in here into the north, you will not see a total eclipse. You have to stand inside this very specific little area where the shadow of the moon is racing across the Earth to get a total eclipse. And if you're in the right place at the right time, the shadow will come along, eclipse the sun for you, and then it'll just keep moving. So that gives you an idea of what we call the celestial mechanics, or the planetary science that's responsible for giving us solar eclipses. So that's what it looks like with an animation. Let's just take a look at a couple of photographs that are taken from the ground for real. So here's a total eclipse, a great photograph of a total eclipse. There's the dark side of the moon. You see on the outside, the corona, that crown or atmosphere of the sun, suddenly comes into view. You can't see this at any other time except a total eclipse of the sun. This is a tremendous photo taken by my friend Andreas Gada at one of the recent eclipses. And then take a look at this. This shows you the full extent of the corona if you expose your photograph in a certain way to show the full extent of the corona. That atmosphere of the sun that you're seeing there shoots out for millions of miles off the surface of the sun. And with your eye, you can glimpse parts of the full extent of the corona when you're standing there yourself. Here's another terrific photo of an eclipse chase that I did from a plane. You can see that we're actually inside an airplane here above the clouds. Here's the total eclipse in the sky. There's the moon in front of the sun. And if you can see down on the ground here, there's this curved shadow. That's the shadow of the moon landing on the Earth on top of the clouds. And we're in a plane zooming along and flying with the shadow, right? This allowed us to see the eclipse on a day where it was very cloudy on the ground. So sometimes you need to get up in a plane if you want to make sure that you're going to see the eclipse. Here's a tremendous shot of a total eclipse from Australia that I took a number of years ago. And you can sort of see the shadow in the sky, the dark part here. That's the shadow leaping off the moon and landing on the Earth, and we're standing in it. Here's another fantastic shot of what an eclipse looks like from the ground. This is from my friend Stéphane Grissard. He shot this from Easter Island, and you can see the iconic statues here of Easter Island in silhouette with the eclipse in the sky. So eclipses really do get you to some of the most fantastic places, and you can see this phenomenon virtually everywhere in the world over time. Take a look at this shot. I took this with my friend Lucas Gornicevic. We took this from South America, right at the bottom of South America. And look at the shadow in the sky. You can really sort of perceive the shadow leaping off the moon as it covers the sun and dropping you into this dark pocket of shadow as the moon is slowly moving across the sun. And to be there when this happens, as I say, it's absolutely incredible experience. And this is why we keep going to see these over and over and over again. Take a look at this video. This was taken at the same eclipse from South America.
Wow! 20 seconds!
Oh, I got corona. I got corona.
Yeah?
I have corona.
Yeah? There it is!
The reflection on the water!
10 seconds! Woo!
Diamond ring.
Diamond ring!
Diamond ring. Look. Oh my God. Whoa! My God. Look. Providence.
Wow! Woo! Oh my God! Oh. Woo!
Check that out.
Woo! Wow!
Look at it. Oh, look at the cone of the shadow. See? Look at this. This is the shadow. Like this. So what do you notice the most about that video? The thing that I recognize the most every time I play that video is a bunch of people completely losing their minds about how incredible the thing is that they're seeing. And this happens over and over again. It still even happens to me when I go to see an eclipse. I get so incredibly excited when the moon's shadow finally falls on top of me that I just lose my mind completely and just yell and scream. I'm just having the best time. And it's that experience of that sort of peak experience that I was talking about, where all the best feelings in your life all arrive at the same time, that has motivated me to keep doing this for more than 30 years of my life. And this just shows you all the paths of the eclipse. All those stripes on the world are all the total eclipse paths that have happened since I started chasing eclipses, and then all the places that I got to go to see these incredible events. And if you look at this animation, you see that I've been able to go to every single continent, including Antarctica, including way up high in the Arctic, near the North Pole, Africa, and the Middle East, and Europe. And it's just been the most incredible hobby and the most rewarding hobby to be able to do this kind of travel and see the most fantastic natural phenomenon every time I go out. So this is what you're in for if you're interested in chasing eclipses, or if you want to even just see a couple of eclipses. You'll end up traveling to some of the most fantastic places in the world. So you'll be discovering the Earth as you're discovering the solar system at the same time. So here's just a couple of pictures that I want to share of some of the places that I've been that just make me so happy to be an eclipse chaser. Like when I went to Australia, or here's a picture from Antarctica, where I went on an icebreaker on the water, and we came to the coast of Antarctica and we saw an eclipse with 100,000 penguins. Okay, that's a lot of penguins. And I never thought that I would ever see penguins or be there for an eclipse with a bunch of penguins. Right? And I'm having the time of my life wherever I travel. This is Arizona a couple of years ago for an eclipse, just loving this hobby. And here I am at an oasis, which is that small lake in Libya, which is in the middle of the Sahara Desert in northern Africa. Again, a country I never thought that I would get to. But if the eclipse goes there, then I'm going to go there. And I'll do everything that I can to get there to keep repeating this experience. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what the total solar eclipse is, sort of how it happens, what the experience is, and then what it's like to be an eclipse chaser. So let's move on to the second part. And this is all about the shadow of the moon. We saw in that animation that when the moon moves in front of the sun, it casts a shadow down onto the earth, and you have to go stand inside that shadow. Let's just look at this in just a little bit more detail to see how this is happening. So here's the moon moving around the earth every month, just like it does all the time. There you see, you've got the moon there, and you've got the earth. And I'm just going to stop this image here so that you can see, here's the moon, and look at the shadow. Can you see this? How long and thin that shadow is. And then there's the earth. And most of the time, the shadow misses the earth. So the shadow almost every month misses the earth because the shadow flies too low. Sometimes the moon's up here and the shadow crosses the earth up on the north side. So this is what happens most of the time, which is why we don't get eclipses all the time. It's only every once in a while when the moon, earth, and the sun align in a perfectly straight line. And as you can see here, the moon slowly drags its shadow across the surface of the earth, and that creates the conditions for a total eclipse of the sun. So let's look at this again in just a little bit more detail. Here comes the shadow of the moon. The alignment is perfect. You have the sun, the moon, and the earth aligned, and that allows the shadow of the moon, which is always there, to drop down and touch the surface of the earth, and that gives you a chance to go stand where that shadow is racing along and watch the moon block out the sun. So that's what's called the celestial mechanics. It's the system that's creating eclipses and how the conditions have to be perfect for you to see a total eclipse of the sun. So this is very important for eclipse chasers. Let's look at this animation again from the eclipse chaser's perspective. We need to know exactly where to stand every time. We know when the eclipse is going to happen, but we also need to know exactly where we have to stand to be inside the shadow of the moon. It's very easy to stand in the wrong place if you're not sure where to go. So with these kinds of maps and all the science and the predictions that we have these days, it's easy for us to understand exactly where we have to stand so that we're there when the shadow of the moon comes along. You could even get a boat or a ship and go out and see it from the ocean. It doesn't matter where you are on the earth, as long as you're in the right place at the right time as the shadow comes racing along. So to me, this is fantastic science. It's all the science behind the incredible experience. We wouldn't be able to do this if we couldn't predict eclipses in just this way. Now, I mentioned the NASA's Scientific Visualization Studio. This is another animation from them, but in really high detail. This really helps eclipse chasers understand where we have to go. You can see the shadow of the moon there moving along in its predictable path. So if you want to see an eclipse, you can access a map like this or an animation like this, and it tells you exactly where you have to be. So if I just stop this, if you stand to the south, way down here, you won't see a total eclipse. If you stand outside of the path up here in the north somewhere near that patch, you will not see a total eclipse. You have to be inside this very, very specific path of totality, the path of the total eclipse, in order to have the moon block out the sun completely. And this is where sometimes we get it wrong. We hear there's an eclipse and it was, oh, there's a 95% eclipse coming somewhere. Let's go see the eclipse. No, that's not 100% eclipse. You need to make sure that you're in exactly the right place to have the sun blocked out completely. And then all this tremendous phenomenon will be available to you. So that gives you a sense of what's happening from out in space, all the celestial mechanics that create this incredible experience. Let's take a look at a little bit of video that I have from on the ground. So here I am standing right there where that arrow is on a small island in Indonesia, and I'm filming the shadow as it comes. Take a look at this. There's the darkness coming in. So watch this again. Watch the moon block the sun in the sky. Look at that. Now watch this again. Watch the shadow move across these clouds and then darken the horizon in the distance. That is fantastic time-lapse video of the shadow. Look how dark it gets. The eclipse is almost like a cosmic light switch, turning daytime into night in a matter of seconds. This is one of the reasons why this is so exciting. And look at this image. You can see the leading edge of the moon's shadow slowly coming in. Total eclipse on that side, not quite a total eclipse on that side. Right? So you can see the words dark over here on this part of this image, and it's still light a little bit over here. So the shadow hasn't reached there yet. And the line of the shadow in the sky right down the middle of this image is that leading edge of the shadow as the moon is slowly crossing the sun. This is one of my favorite images that I've been able to take at an eclipse. And you can see me down there with my hands up going, yeah, because this is the most fantastic thing that you could possibly witness with your own eyes. Here's another little bit of video of the shadow coming in. Again, we're looking at the shadow of the moon, right? So this is on a loop. So you see this over and over again. This is from China, way out in the tundra in 2008. So it's bright, and then look at the shadow come in. Takes out the sun, and then covers your location. And then you get to enjoy that for a couple of minutes. Look at that, just fabulous video. So that's what a total eclipse is. That's how you get into the right place at the right time, using the science, using the predictability of an eclipse to get to the right place at the right time. And this is why it's just so incredibly exciting, is you've got all that going on at the same time. So let's move to part 3 as we move quickly through this. Here's some fun facts about total solar eclipses. And we've talked about this. They're predictable. So you can predict them into the future. You can also go back into the past and say, oh, when was there an eclipse in 1876? So you can find out eclipses in the past and find out eclipses in the future, because the solar system works in a very predictable way. And this allows us to predict when eclipses are going to come. Fact number 2, total solar eclipses occur on average about every 18 months. So this allows eclipse chasers to come home, save some money, and then book another flight, and then go out and see another total solar eclipse. As I said earlier, we're living in a time now where eclipses seem to be coming a little bit more frequently than the average, which is really terrific for eclipse chasers and for anybody who wants to see their first eclipse. If you don't want to travel, you have to wait 375 years for an eclipse to come to you. So that's the average time it takes for an eclipse to just, naturally come back to a certain place on the Earth, 375 years. So that means you're probably not going to see a total eclipse in your lifetime if you stay put. You have to get out and travel to see eclipses if you want to see them. Another amazing thing about eclipses is that they come in a regular period. Part of the predictability is that the moon moves in an 18-year, 11-day cycle around the Earth. And as a result, it comes in front of the sun in a predictable way during that 18-year period. And it causes similar types of eclipses during that 18-year period. That's an amazing fact about eclipses. They're predictable, they repeat, and this cycle of repeating eclipses is called the Saros cycle. Here's the great coincidence. You notice in some of the animations we've seen when the moon covers up the moon is exactly the same size as the sun. How is that possible? It's because the moon is 400 times smaller, but it's also 400 times closer to us than the sun. So what happens when you put those two things together is the moon and the sun appear to be exactly the same size in the sky. So they line up perfectly. This is the amazing thing called the great coincidence. Now, I've mentioned it a couple of times, but the only phase of the eclipse where you can take your glasses off is called totality. That's when the moon is completely covering the sun. There's no danger for those couple of minutes because the sun has disappeared. It's dark enough in the sky to see stars and planets. And this phase, the total eclipse of the phase called totality, is what eclipse chasers are after. Now, totality can last technically 7.5 minutes. Eclipses of that duration hardly ever happen, though. They usually are about 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes of totality, if you're lucky. Earth is the only planet that can see a total solar eclipse. With all the other planets in the solar system and the hundreds of moons we have, we don't have the great coincidence happening anywhere else except on the planet Earth, where a moon can block out the sun exactly the same size as the sun and cause these tremendous phenomena. Only humans see this, which is very interesting. A little bit about eclipse chasers. We see each other over and over again at eclipse locations around the world. Of course, there's thousands of us who love eclipses the way that I do. And we get together, we make plans, we put travel plans together, and we go and see eclipses, and we make friends, and we see eclipses, and we see each other over and over again. Now, the average person, because there's, I think, about 8 billion people on the planet right now, the average person will never see one because they are rare. You have to know about them. You have to make plans. You have to travel to go see one of these. So the average person out of the 8 billion people on this planet will never see a total eclipse in their lifetime. And I hope you're not one of those. But these people in this video, they did see an eclipse.
It took less than 3 minutes, caused the crowd to roar, and yours truly almost cried.
People here are literally cheering as this takes place. This is just a phenomenal feeling.
It's hard to describe what it's like being inside the path of totality.
People here are literally cheering.
Within minutes, day turned to night as the temperature dropped, right before an amazing show high in the sky.
It took your breath for a minute.
Yeah, I was like, and then I was like, oh my God, this is really happening. And before I knew it, it was over and I was sad.
This is something that I will be dreaming about and thinking about for the rest of my life.
Crowds erupted in Carbondale, Illinois, where the darkness lasted longer than nearly anywhere else in the country.
Unbelievable. I'm so glad we got to see it. Now we can look at it. Oh my God.
There it is. Wow.
You can see the stars.
You can see the planets.
Oh my God. You guys, I'm actually crying. This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh, it's emotional. I can't explain why, but it is. We had tears, we had screams, we had fireworks during totality, but it just took my breath away, the whole thing. It's really cool that you can see the corona and you see the sun kind of spewing out from behind the moon. It literally took our breath away for a while. So I'm so excited for everyone to experience this. Oh my God!
Oh my God, look at this diamond ring right in the pictures. Look real quick.
This is so creepy.
Got a diamond ring.
Guys, watch out, guys.
Oh my God.
Guys.
Oh my God, it's so freaking dark outside. Watch out. Watch out. Oh my God. It's black. Oh my God.
That's Venus. Oh my gosh. Guys, look at Mercury.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh, look at the corona.
God.
Oh my God.
That's Mercury. In the middle. Oh my God, it's so dark. Oh
Make the sound in the video.
my God. Look at this right now. Look at that. That's what it looks like right now. Oh my God. So crazy. Oh, look at how dark it is.
So that video always makes me smile. But listen to what's going on in there. You know, people are losing their minds. People are going crazy. There was that reporter who was saying that she was feeling emotional and she was almost crying, or she actually was crying. And this is what I'm talking about. This is a tremendous experience. This is what we call a peak experience, where all the best feelings in your life all come at the same time. And you have this incredible feeling, and that's very emotionally overwhelming. So when's the next one? When can we actually all get into the path of totality and see this thing for ourselves? Well, we're very lucky. It's only about 5 months away. Monday, April the 8th, 2024, and it's coming right through North America. And this is a perfect opportunity for you to get your parents, get your teachers, get your friends, get everybody together, and you've got to come and see this. There's not going to be another one in our area for quite a long time. So let's take a look at where the path actually is. Here's a nice map that we have again from Michael Zeiler at Great American Eclipse. I'm going to show you his website, but this is where the eclipse is visible. Do you see this long path, this yellow path? That's the path of totality. Not up here in the north, not down here in Florida, right along here in that path. You're going to see roughly 4 minutes of totality. That's a nice, fat, long, juicy eclipse. So you have to make sure that you get yourself into the path of the eclipse. And I'm going to send your teachers links to some websites where you can find detailed maps of the path. In fact, I'm going to show a couple of those right here. If you're looking for more information about eclipses, this is my site. This is eclipseguy.com. This is about the experiences. This is all the videos and the films to get you excited. NASA, excuse me, NASA has a fantastic website here with all information about the upcoming eclipses so that you can understand what it is that you're going to see. My friend Michael Zeiler has the greatamericaneclipse.com. This is where you get maps and videos of the path of totality that makes so you can understand where you need to go to stand in the right place. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you need eclipse glasses. You need to protect your eyes, and you have to go to eclipse2024.org to order your eclipse glasses, and do it in advance. Get them soon so that you're prepared for the eclipse coming up in April. How about that?
Oh, David, thank you so much, man. This is always such a thrill. It's like one of the most enthusiastic broadcasts we have every single year, and we have the most enthusiastic people in the world. So that's a high praise. I'm going to make sure all our classes have those links. I know quite a few of our classes today are actually in the path of totality, which is exciting. I'm going to go 20 minutes south.
Yes.
I'm so excited to see one. And what we're going to do now is dive in with questions. We've got a couple groups on YouTube joining us. If you want to share more questions, Jasper Elementary, I'm coming to you first when we go live, but everyone's going to get a turn. A quick one, and we always get this one for you. It's inevitable, and I'm sure you get it more than any other question from our Northeast Oregon crew. Miss Evans' class wants to know, What's your favorite all-time eclipse?
Okay, so this is a very hard question to answer because as I go along and keep seeing more eclipses, I keep having fantastic experiences. But I always pick Libya in 2006 because the eclipse was over 4 minutes long. We were in the Sahara Desert. The conditions were very dry. We had a perfectly clear sky overhead. It was a very exotic, really neat new country for me. I'd never been to anywhere like the Sahara Desert before. Flat and dry, perfect conditions for an eclipse. I was rolling maybe 5 different video cameras, trying to put my film together, and everything worked perfectly. Everybody had a fantastic time. I've got to go with Libya in 2006.
Interesting. I will say most people that we bring on these broadcasts and they're asked their favorite whatever don't have an answer. So the fact that you have a fairly concrete one amidst all the incredible experiences is very nice. So thanks, Ms. Evans' class. Jasper Elementary, we're going to Alberta. Do you guys have a question for us? Come on in. Hey.
Why could they see Mercury in one of those videos?
Great question. Paying attention.
So that tells you when the moon blocks out the sun, how dark the sky gets, right? So you have to be aware that during the day, all the planets are still up there. They don't just come out at night. It's only because the sun sets and you get to see a dark sky that you see all the stars and the planets. But they're there during the day as well, but you can't see them because the sun is just drenching you with all of this light. And the sun is so bright, you can't see anything else in the sky. But if you block the sun for a few minutes, of course, you see all the planets and the stars that are already there all the time.
Which is wild and so cool. Great question. We're going to head to the path of totality, or at least nearby it. Ms. Smith's class, 6B, if you guys want to come on it, unmute your mic, and you're good to go.
Hi, I was just wondering, what's the coolest planet to see during an eclipse?
Ooh. No pressure.
No, that's an easy answer, and it's Venus. Why? Because Venus is very bright. And it's usually the first planet that comes out even before totality comes in. Once the shadow is almost on top of you, the sky has darkened enough that you can see Venus. And then you always hear somebody in an eclipse yell out, Venus, Venus. And that tells you that you're almost at the total eclipse phase.
So funny. Any night you go out, if you see something really bright in the sky, it's probably Venus. Venus is so much brighter than anything else out there. It's a very cool planet to witness. Ms. Evanberger's class, come on in, guys. Take us away. Hey.
How can you tell when an eclipse is coming?
Great question. And that's the predictability. So all of the math and the science that we've built over the last hundreds, even thousands of years of watching the sky and seeing what it's doing allows us to understand that eclipses come in these repeated 18-year cycles. So, and that happens over and over and over again without fail. So now we know that within any 18-year period, you're going to have 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 eclipses or something like that. And they happen over and over and over again every 18 years. So that allows us to make very specific predictions. And we understand the solar system very well these days. And we can tell exactly where the shadow of the moon is going to fall. And then you know where to go and stand.
I mean, I know this too, and we get this question every time, but it's still like black magic. It's magic that works, that we can be like, okay, in 2310, on this location at this time, we're going to get an eclipse. That is astonishing that we have that technological and scientific development to know that. That's so great question, guys. Jasper Elementary, we're going to come back to you. YouTubers, don't be shy if you have any more. We've got about 6 minutes more together, so come on in Alberta. Hey.
Okay, stand up, Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Have you ever cried during a solar eclipse?
Okay, so remember at the beginning, I said that this was not so much science, but it was the experience. And it's called a peak experience because all of the greatest feelings in your life all seem to arrive at the same time. Awe, wonder, fascination, excitement. And that just sort of wells you up and you have this incredibly strong positive feeling. And that makes you cry sometimes. And yes, I've cried.
I think it's funny. No one's like David, so no one we've ever had on talks about this in such a wonderful way and illustrates so much. But every single person we've had on that's ever talked about seeing an eclipse or the aurora has cried. Two of the most incredible natural phenomena on planet Earth. Miss Smith's class, 6B, come on back in, unmute your mic, and you're good to go. Hey.
Do you have to have money to travel the world to see an eclipse?
And people want to know if you can make it a job.
Can you make it Good job. Perfect. Great questions.
Okay, so first party, yes, you need money. So I spend all the rest of my time trying to make money to pay for airplane tickets and to pay for hotels and cars and boats and planes. But I don't buy big cars. I don't buy a big house. My TV is 15 years old. I don't spend money on, things that I don't need to spend money on. So I've made my choice, and my choice is saving all of my money, because this is the most important thing. So it does cost a lot of money. And I know not everybody can go to Antarctica or go to Northern Africa because it does get a little bit expensive. So yes, you need to have some money. You need to figure out, do what you have to do to get the money to go see eclipses. And I've tried to make it my job. It's just hard to make money out of going to see eclipses. Sometimes I'll get a free trip, or sometimes they'll hire me to do some filming, or I might be able to do a talk on a ship and be the eclipse expert on the ship. They might pay me to do that. And that's helping, but I'm still going to go.
Yep. I love this question, and I'm really glad when you get it every time, because it's an important thing for our kids to know. And it's something that underscores a lot of the work that we have on, whether it's conservationists, whether it's space enthusiasts. People, instead of spending their money on material things, do it for experiences. And you've been able to have some of the most incredible experiences in some of the most beautiful, wonderful places on planet Earth with really passionate people. And that's really what a lot of the people we bring on have.
No regrets at all. All the money that I've spent on it, I do it again.
Yep. I have a Honda Civic that I'm going to run till it's like 25 years old, and it's like puttering along, and I've got to push it. And that's because I want to travel and go see amazing things. So
still a car, you're still going from A to B. Everything's good.
That's my philosophy. Ms. Evanberg's class, we're going to wrap up with you guys. This has been so fun. You guys have had great questions today, everyone. Come on in and wrap us up, guys.
What's our max temperature drop during a solar eclipse?
Great question. Never had that one before.
So that's very technical. So it really depends on where you are, what the climate is like, how thick the shadow is, how long the eclipse actually lasts, how oblique or how straight down the shadow was. All of that affects the temperature drop, but it can be up to 10, 11, or 12 degrees centigrade.
Wow.
So it is a significant amount. It's a significant amount. And this has been studied extensively. And it's one of the things that citizen science has offered a lot, because it's a relatively easy experiment to do. And there's tons of data on that.
Yeah. I would never have expected it that much. That's so cool.
Yeah,
sorry.
It is. And one more thing before we go, and I forgot, it's maybe almost the actual best thing about seeing eclipses is the fantastic hats that you can get. I get one almost every time I go. I mean, who doesn't want a fantastic eclipse hat? Maybe you'll get one in 2024.
Maybe so. Oh, that's a perfect end. David, thank you so much for coming on again, man. Over 500 kids across the world. A huge thank you to all our classrooms. Eclipse Guy, if you want to check out the website there. David, send me all those websites. I'll make sure all our classes have them. But what we're going to do is bring in all our classes to say a big thank you and farewell as always. So Jasper Elementary, Miss Smith, Miss Evanberg, if you're on YouTube, thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.